It's 1 o'clock. I'd like to go ahead and get started. At this time, I'd like to welcome everybody to the latest Sustainable Practices for Wisconsin Printers webinar series. This is Prepare to Champion Sustainability. The program is brought to you by a whole host of individual organizations, including the Wisconsin DNR, the Green Tier Program, SGP Program, Flexible Technical Association, Flexography Technical Association, the Great Lakes Graphics Association, Printing United Alliance, and the Tag and Label Manufacturing Industry. The moderator is yours truly, Joe Lyman. I'm the president of the Great Lakes Graphics Association. And in terms of webcast logistics, all attendees are muted. If you have a question or comment, you can always use the chat box on the right-hand frame of the software package. Questions will always be answered at the end of the program. And this webcast is being recorded today, and it will be made available to you in the next couple of days. And more information will be following in an email, including that recording. In today's agenda, we will do welcome and introductions. We'll talk about the Sustainable Green Printing Partnership, and I'll have Gary Jones unmute himself to talk a little bit about that. We'll talk about Green Tier, building sustainability champions, identifying and motivating employees, as well as creating and maintaining momentum. And then finally, building sustainability champions and engaging management and communicating business benefits. At this time, I'd like to ask Gary Jones to unmute himself to talk a little bit about the benefits of the crossover between the Green Tier program and SGP.
Thanks, Joe. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us for our webinar. It's the continuation. Oh, can you hear me, Joe?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right. It's a continuation of the series of webinars we've been having under our agreement that we have with the Wisconsin DNR. Joe had went through the list of organizations at the beginning of the presentation, and we're all working in partnership with the DNR to really focus on the printing industry, also to look at how we can bring sustainability to the forefront and share with you a lot of great successes that printing organizations have enjoyed with respect to sustainability, which is what the whole purpose of this program is today. We've done other programs in the past focused on regulations, and it's really a great working group. And if you're interested in joining, please feel free to reach out to one of us and let us know if you want to become part of our group. As part of the seminar series that we're doing, or webinar series, we wanted to take the time to talk about two programs to bring to your attention. First is Green Tier, which is a Wisconsin-based voluntary program that recognizes superior environmental performance. And we really encourage any company in Wisconsin involved in printing to look at the Green Tier program, become engaged. There's actually some benefits in terms of the recognition that you get. You have a dedicated DNR liaison, regulatory flexibility and streamlined permits. And actually the DNR has come out with a new registration operating permit that provides even more flexibility and greater incentives for companies to get involved in Green Tier. Obviously, reduce your costs, risk and liability. And likewise, we have a program that was created by the printing industry for the printing industry called the Sustainable Green Printing Partnership. The Sustainable Green Printing Partnership is the only program that certifies printers for sustainability performance in the US and Canada. It does several things. One is it gives you recognition that it shows you can meet your customers' demand for a sustainable supply chain. Again, reduces operational costs. A positive environmental and workforce response that we get from the SGP program. It has an excellent tool called the SGP Impact Tracker that allows you to actually look at translating some of the savings that you gain in protection that you provide to the environment into terms that everyone understands. And a lot of companies incorporate that into their communication with their customers. And one great thing about the overall overarching program between the Green Tier and SGP is that there's a relationship between the two programs. So what we mean by that is if you get recognized under Green Tier, you can easily get certified under SGP. And likewise, if you get certified under SGP, you can easily get recognized under the Green Tier program. So we worked long and hard with the DNR to make sure that the programs align with each other, and that companies that are in either one of the programs can take advantage of the other program. Now, you have to apply separately and go through the process, but when you meet the requirements for the one program, you're pretty much meeting the requirements for the other program, so they're really in harmony with each other. So thanks, Joe. I'll turn it back to you.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Gary. Today we have today's speakers, Lisa Bauer-Lotto, who is the Corporate Director of Environmental Sustainability at Green Bay Packaging. Lisa leads strategic planning for and is instrumental in directing environmental compliance, sustainability programs, and fiber certification systems for the family-owned paper company with 5 product lines, 38 manufacturing sites, and 4,200 employees in 15 states. We also have Jennifer Schlosser, who is the creative director at Empire Screen Printing. She oversees production artists, project managers, web developers, designers, and the marketing team. Her other role is Empire Sustainability Coordinator. As a sustainability coordinator, she established a green committee and formally created a sustainability policy. Jennifer's goals are to implement sustainable practices that focus on the triple bottom line, people, planet, and profits, while making sustainability a way of life for Empire and its employees. Welcome today.
Thank you.
Thank you. So this is Lisa Bauer-Lotto. I'll be speaking with our programs with Green Bay Packaging and keeping in mind the items on the agenda. I'll interject them on the slides here. And as you identified, Green Bay Packaging is has 5 product lines, nearly $2 billion in sales. And our main product is corrugated shipping containers with 2 mills. And then we have folding cartons, label stock, lumber, and some company timberlands. Next slide, please. These are, our locations. You can see the corrugated converting operations were mostly in the Midwest to service our customer base, and we complement with the corrugated shipping, with the folding, and then the coated product label stock. So it's a good menu within our company. Next slide, please. So I wanted to, speak on the sustainability program in our company and just kind of keep it in some basic bullets. There's information on it. And, we started our program in 2008. We had a small sustainability report. We started measuring things with data, with what the amount of waste was generated, the amount of water use, energy, and emissions, and started collecting that data. And we formalized a format across our different product groups and then collectively put it for the entire company. So we can use these different measurements and for a product group like container board, which is 24 manufacturing facilities, or it could be our other lumber or other unique product group that we can speak to it. We also show it for each site so they can see how they compare with their peer in the group, and then year on year, as in that communication engagement, more advancing our program. So we've been doing these internal communications for some time, and more robustly in the last 5 years as we strive toward performance trends, targets, and continuous improvements across our product line. We normalize and communicate to our customers as they ask, like how much waste per product unit manufactured. And so we use that for a number of responses, but we also use it for platforms for scoring, which could be the CDP. It used to be a Carbon Disclosure Project, but EcoVadis, and there's some also with large companies have their own where you put all the information in. We further have been advancing with the key stakeholder management, and that's where, that could be the employee, the manager of the plant, our board of directors. There's different levels of ownership and stakeholder. That also is our customer base too. They help us partner and derive by opportunities too with our design or product offerings. So we have also been advancing and more robustly here on capital expenditures, where we look at projects, and if there's an opportunity, like how much water it will generate, what will this project reduce energy, and integrating it in on some of those benefits and quantifying them. And if there's opportunities of an add-on or some type of innovation, that too is taken into consideration at the time of a capital expenditure or different program initiatives across our company as well. So it's not only at the capital expenditure, we also do it like we're in right now rolling out a waste initiative for zero waste to landfill. So that's also where the stakeholders levels of engagement also is part of ours. And so when we look at identifying and motivating employees, as many times it is the showing the data tells you things that help you for continuous improvement. It also motivating employees when they can see their cause and effect of their actions, that they can see their contributions are helpful. That's another way that we engage. When we look at the management or the business benefits that and the customer base, this too is like with reporting that we do. We also do infographics across our product groups and our company that shows like how much renewable energy across the company. So those are all part of our sustainability program on that. And when we look at engagement employees, we do it through a newsletter. We do training on subject matter. We post it on our SharePoint site. So anybody with an email with Green Bay Packaging can access this information. So they have access and awareness of it. We also have items on our internet site for sustainability, also on different aspects of our company, would be fiber certification or recycling or design for environment and stuff. So we have many out there. The where we get management involved is at the point we do environmental reviews on a frequency, usually an annual basis. And as part of that, the metrics are communicated at that time to what their performance is and what the goals there are, so they can look on year what their waste generation is, if it's improving or increasing, and possibly why. Their water generation, when you measure something, that's where you're able to manage it. And when you have very large water generation, it could be your practices, but it could also be a valve or the meter has been broken. We've had that. So it's also a good best practices, not only sustainability, but operationally. And so we've had good buy-in from operationally, because it does give a good measure on some of their key performance indicators, just even on an operational standpoint. Next slide, please. So we look at our initiatives in our company, and we have our energy, water, waste diversion, and sustainable forestry. These are our main ones in our company that we encompass across all our product groups. But I wanted to take this to just briefly talk about creating, some of this momentum. And in our printing side, printing operations, we do flexographic, lithographic, and some digital. And on the flexographic side, that's the predominant for the container board. That's our majority of our printing is water-based, non-heat sheet fed. And so we do ink recycling. We blend it to black. We recycle pails in the way that we clean them out and reuse them. And then when we're done the life of the ink pail, we will find offsite recycles where they are available, because sometimes markets that's not possible. We also look at that, reducing the waste. We have a very robust waste tracking, and whenever we can, we try to get the vendor to take back like totes or any other ingredients to keep that life cycle of those containers active. We also integrate and do training on color changes. So we go from light ink to darker for the makeup and reuse. We look at inventory management, so we can find things. Every place has a color, and you can track it and find it. And then there's less groundhog, where you keep producing it and then just shelving it. So that helps minimize our waste and our cost. And that's a training point as well. We also look at wash ups on the presses to make sure that they manage the water And also how they switch out colors, not to put more than they need to down the drain in the way of decanting, stuff like that. So we do training on that for wastewater discharges. And we look for low VOC containing raw materials as well through our product line on the printing side. We also measure the recycled content of all the boards that we use through our company, whether it be a paper board for folder carton or a container board for our boxes. And so we are also SFI and FSC certified across select sites, FSC, but all our products are SFI certified. Next slide, please. This just kind of goes on our energy. I know this is recorded in the slides provided. Our 57% is renewable energy company-wide. Our capital investment this last year, I will touch upon that a little bit later, is probably one of our greatest, proudest achievements in the current state here. We also do a lot of energy innovation with biogas and biomass, and integrate in capital projects when we can. Next slide, please. With water and wastewater, these are just some of our metrics again that we measure to speak on our company as a whole, that we're highly recycle water. We're very conscious of it. We do water security risk assessment across our company. And then we participate in the scoring for the CDP for water security. We also are a nationally and state award winner for our water recycling at our Green Bay mill and at some other of our functional uses. Our waste, we're in the midst, like I said, of initiative to waste diversion to decrease waste to landfill. And our box and container operations are right now average more than 95% landfill diversion. So we're looking to keep growing that across our company as well. The next slide, please. Our forestry, we're one of the few, if not, family-owned companies, or even a company that owns forestry, where we are sustainably certified managing our forest that's included in our product. Many of the paper companies divested off of their forestry. We have retained our forestry, and we plant trees as well as part of our sustainable forestry. Next slide, please. This is one of our prouder products here. I see the picture didn't pull in, but we just are completing a world-class mill here in Green Bay. We have spent more than $500 million. It's 100% recycled, but what's unique to this that I'm not aware of anybody else in the industry has done is that we are reclaiming and recycling our water with the nearby municipality, and we have no direct discharge to the Fox River. So we are a paper mill that's intensely using 2.8 million gallons of water, and we are recycling and reclaiming all of it to supply our site. We do have some freshwater intake for the boilers, so we keep the integrity of that, but otherwise all the process and stuff is recycled water on that. And we also with this did energy efficiencies with clean energy and significantly reduced our air emissions, and we stopped burning coal in our company at the start of this project. So next slide, please. Nope, and there's the picture. There's the mill in Green Bay. It was the largest project in the county, and probably the next one would be the Packer Stadium. Next slide, please. And this just kind of talks about some of our sustainability recognition of achievements and work that we've done just recently in 2022 that we have out there, and you can look at it with the links on recycling and of our water practices. Next slide, please. And then these are just with the DNR. We got Recycling Excellence Award, and then Green Masters, and our other associations we have with Nature Conservancy. And that is my final slide. And thank you for that opportunity.
Good afternoon. Joe, was I just gonna go into this? I'm Jennifer Schlosser. I work for Empire Screen Printing, as Joe mentioned earlier. I've been with the company for 21 years, so I've been here for a number of years. Today I'll just talk a little bit about Empire, a little bit of history, and then go over some of our sustainability projects that we're working on. Empire Screen Printing is specializes in screen, flexo, and digital printing, and we also do doming products. Next slide. Our main markets are OEM and POP, but our core is medical, major and small appliances, food and beverage, outdoor power equipment, and the sporting goods, leisure and health and fitness equipment. We produce overlays, vinyl decals, pre-space vehicle decals, roll labels, aluminum, variable data, continuous imaging, and POP signage, to name a few of our products. Our big, next slide. What makes us unique is the way that we manufacture. We manufacture in cells. We take raw material to finished goods in one piece flow. So we do our printing, our laminating, our splitting, and our die cutting all in one sequence. So we build our quality into every product that goes through that press. Another unique for us is roll-to-roll. We're growing in our roll-to-roll printing, so we can also do screen, sheet, or roll, and on the subsurface material substrate. So 15 to 30 mils can either be sheet fed or roll using screen or digital equipment. And our major unique is our pioneering and developing of our environmentally friendly UV LED ink curing technology for screen printing. That picture over to the slide is our prototype for our roll-to-roll, so you can kind of see the guys out there, and those are the guys that created that. So we built all our equipment here. Not all of it, but that particular one. Next slide. Brief history, we are a privately owned business as well. We were founded by James A. Brush in 1960. He started out in the small garage there on French Island. He lived out of his car. He put everything he had into building this business, and he wanted it. The name came from him wanting to become an empire. So he set out to do that in 1960. In 1967, we moved to our current location on Marco Road in Onalaska. We're just kind of out in the bluff in the valley. We've had 17 additions added to the initial barn where he initially set up shop. And now we have 150,000 square feet of manufacturing space, and we employ roughly 250 employees. Next slide. In the 70s, we first established an appliance market, and that continues to be our top sales area for us. Also in the 70s, we, from a sustainability side, we started using UV inks, and this ended up being a failure for us. It was for the toy industry. They wanted to use inks that were not toxic for kids. At that time, it wasn't, we failed and didn't obviously pursue that path. In the 80s, we also had a contract with NASA, and in kind of a neat historical sense, the astronauts visited Empire back then on occasion. And then we also started an ink and solvent recycling procedure, similar to what Lisa was saying. We'll take inks and reuse them, either making them darker or changing out, and then using a solvent reclaiming process to spin out our rags and recycle the solvents so that we can put them back on the floor. And that was back in about, I believe, 85 that we started that procedure. In 87, Jim wanted to kind of give back to the community, and he did this by donating the labor and printing for Children's Miracle Network hospitals, and we continue to do that today. Next slide. In the 90s, we expanded into doming and flexo printing, and after about 20 years, Jim decided to kind of try using UV inks again from an employee safety standpoint. The solvents with the high VOCs, a better working environment for the employees. So he started looking back at the UV inks to replace that solvent. So some of the things with the UV, 100% remains on the substrate, but it does have the mercury curing bulbs, are not energy efficient. Bulbs need to be replaced 3 to 6 months after every 3 to 6 months. and they're always on. So you start them up in the morning and they won't get shut down until, well, we run 3 shifts, so they won't get shut down until the weekend. So Sunday to Friday, those lights are on the whole time. Unless of course we don't have that press running. And then it has a lot of heat in the process where the material will get distorted. So there's some advantages from the VOC standpoint, but also very high energy by using the mercury vapor bulb. So this is where we were at in the 90s. We started converting that process, and we were about 5% at the end of the 90s. And then also in the art department, we established, we started getting computers and film output. So next slide. In 2000, we expanded into digital and digital cutting equipment. And we built our first 3-color carousel press using the UV mercury curing method. And that was the picture up in the right-hand corner. We also expanded in our large format area. We went from single color, 1-color cell, our presses, to 6-color carousel presses. We switched over to, in 2007, we started our process to becoming film free with a direct to screen unit. It took another couple of years to completely get rid of the film, but that was our start. And then at this point, we were 95% UV and 5% solvent. And we were having really good growth. The company was doing really well. We had the highest number of employees. And then 2008 hit, and I use this because this has really been a turning point for how the company did run and how it changed over the next, 12, 13 years. So next slide. So in 2008, we lost roughly 27% of our sales in 1 year. So we had to develop a new way of thinking, a new way of manufacturing. Up to this point, all of our manufacturing was done using batch. We'd screen, we'd send it out to the laminating department. They'd do their job, then they'd send it out to the die cutting area. They did their part. And if we found out that if there was an error or mistake in the screen stretch or whatever it may be, that product was either bad, or we had to redo the project, or you made a decision and cut it off or presented some sort of quality issue. Thinking of where we were at this time, we had to figure out a way to manufacture without having loss or minimize the loss, reduce the waste needed to do that. So we started developing cells and studying lean manufacturing. A big part of that was reducing the waste, empowering, only producing what you needed to do the job. So you weren't using that material up front. You could count the job at the end of the printing cycle and the die cutting cycle. And we know right away if we have screen stretch or some sort of screen to die cut stretch going on. So we can fix the problems as we're producing it rather than waiting until the end. The other pivotal point in this time frame was Jim came across an article about LED technology and digital printing. And he just posed the question, can this work for screen printing? In 2009, John Frysmith took over as president, and he really took this question and ran with it. And we got our employees involved to help do the research and development of it, our maintenance shop. We worked with outside ink companies, materials, lighting companies to see if this is something that would be viable for the screen print industry. Also, I just wanted to mention in that area too, is because we started rebranding our company as well, so that, we had to, in some ways work out of this recession that we were sitting in. So in 2009, we successfully manufactured using UV LED. And then in 2011, we introduced it with this 5-color roll-to-roll Cayman press that we call our Eco Press. Next slide. In the 2010s, we became Green Tier recognized, and we had approved an environmental management system in 2014. We converted one of those 3-color UV mercury curing cells to a UV LED. So this is where we really started looking at the numbers. And so when that slide previously with the stacks, same press, but with LED technology. The mercury cost $47,138 to run versus $1,044. So huge energy savings, cost savings to run the UV LED press over the UV mercury press. And, I think all of us were kind of like, wow, couldn't really, the number was so different, but it's because the LED doesn't need the ventilation system that's required with the mercury, and the lights are only on when they're needed. So those are huge energy savings from that standpoint. A few other notables is in 2017, we converted one of our 6-color UV mercury presses to a 12-color UV LED press. That's the picture down there. We didn't have to change the footprint. It was, so we could, 50% of our capacity was gained by taking out the large mercury ovens and replacing them with the LED lights that are kind of between the print heads. Again, that was a project that was built internal. Our machine shop, we also hired a high school student that did some of his entrepreneurial work, or apprentice work, excuse me, on that press, doing the wiring and the programming. In 2019 and 2020, this is our growing area. So we built a large format roller roll. We kind of based it on the Cayman operation. We really wanted to take into consideration how much material would be needed to on the web, how much waste was going to come from that web going through the press, and so we minimized the material usage. We really looked at the waste and the mechanical engineering of it. For screen printing, we were able to get a mechanical registration of 1 to 2 thousandths, which is excellent in the printing industry. It's also camera registered, so it's a 2-station. So if we have more than 2 colors, we can re-register and print it back through. So that's a growing area. We really want to expand that in the near future. In 2020, we also converted our Flexo to an LED, and we purchased a Dane screen washing unit, which reclaims the chemical and water. It's supposed to be a closed loop system where the water is recycled and the chemicals are recycled. When we put this in, we found that the water the recycling wasn't working the way that we had intended it to. So we are still working on improving that process. Our hope is that we can reduce our water 25 to 50% by reusing the water that is used during this process. And in 2020, we did our complete transfer we eliminated all our solvent inks in our facility, and we are 100% UV in our manufacturing, and 85% of our manufacturing uses the UV LED technology. Next slide, please. This is just a side-by-side comparison, where we get that number between the solvent UV mercury and UV LED. One of the biggest things with the UV LED is the bulb life is 10 to 14 years compared to the bulb life of the mercury, which is 3 to 6. The mercury creates ozone. So again, that ventilation system that needs to exhaust the ozone and then the makeup air that's needed. Though that's not needed in the UV LED system, so we can eliminate that portion of the press. And it's an instant on and off. So the way we have it is it's on for, the cycle of when the screen goes underneath the light for it to cure, and it's used using 5% heat and 95% light to cure. So We found that our quality improved because we no longer have material distortion in how we're producing that product. So UV LED just has really gone above what that initial question was, is it possible? So we made something that wasn't there possible, and we decided, you can go to the next slide, we decided to expand that and share that technology with our industry. So the question was, when did we start sustainability? And I have to say that in some ways it's always been a part of, I kind of went through the history because it's always been a little bit of what we've done. We just didn't have the term, we didn't have that sustainability word that we use, but we were doing things that were, where we could be self-sufficient, we could recycle, we could establish that, as part of our business practice. Jim did that when he first started the business. So in a lot of ways, we've always had that in our makeup, but we didn't really coin it until 2012. And we kind of wanted to market it as printing with purpose, and there always has to be intent and purpose to what we do. And so that's kind of our tagline for sustainability, is that we have this purpose, this drive to do something that goes above and beyond the regulations that's required. So in 2012, we established our green team. I put together members of our company, account managers, R&D, electricians, HVAC specialists, HR, and a project manager. And, they're the experts in their fields, the electricians, HVAC, they do the work every day. They know what goes into it. So it's a matter of learning from them so that we can, share it. So account managers, they're communication to our sales, our outside sales, as well as our customers, so they can communicate what we're doing with them. R&D, they've been in the thick of it from the beginning, testing the inks, testing the lights. So their knowledge that comes to the table, and the fact that we can, utilize the resources. HR, we talked, hiring for many companies, especially now, has been very difficult. And how do we market our business from a sustainability standpoint? And then to bring them in for, once we hire them, the orientation and the process of what we're doing to get that buy-in, get that employee engagement, so that we can, create the culture that we're trying to create. Excuse me. And then our project manager, my project manager, she is amazing at what she does. She pulls in all of the information and works on our annual report and our reporting so that we can document our, what our goals ended out, what the outcome of our goals were, and then, establish new goals. And she just kind of ties all this together in our annual reporting. So we've got a good team that, is across the company to help with that engagement. Kind of touch base on it as far as with the LED. I mean, when we first started, it was kind of market and share this technology, but I think it's kind of grown from there. It's a selling tool, and we needed buy-in. And like Lisa was mentioning too, when employees see graphs and see the charts and the metrics of, I didn't share them on here, but it really gives them the opportunity to see that what they're doing is really making a difference. Also, another means to get into the sustainability was that our customers were looking for green alternatives. And so when we looked at material as an option, materials were expensive, and didn't always have the recycled materials. Were expensive and didn't always have the correct properties for the customer's end use. So they didn't hold up to maybe the environment or wherever they were placing them. We offer a sustainable means of manufacturing without adding cost to that process. It's So it's an alternative for customers of ours that, you know, helps on the sustainability side that they're looking for. Again, lean, reduce waste, always look for improvement. We're always looking to continuous improvement. That's part of our culture. And how can we continue to grow as a company. In 2013, I mentioned it earlier, we had going into this green team, we wanted to be certified, or we wanted to be recognized. We wanted to have that validation and that credibility that what we're doing is kind of third party. So we did at that time decide that the Wisconsin Green Tier 1 was the best fit for us. It had the requirements of the ISO 14001 equivalency with our environmental management system. And it had an outside auditor coming in. So these are all things that we felt were important, but yet it was also something that, you know, kind of getting into it without any prior experience or knowledge of what we were doing. When it came to this, that the Green Tier program just helped us, and it was a good fit for us. And since we've been doing this, we've been awarded over 25 plus environmental and safety. I put safety into that number because they both go hand in hand. Next slide, please. Employee engagement and management buy-in. So again, I think it's important, you know, with the UV LED technology, especially, it came from the owner reading the article, and then he kind of asked the question, and it kind of worked downhill from there. It was the employees that kind of got engaged in the process and looked to find, you know, answer that question. But I think management has to have buy-in. I mean, they have to support what is happening within the organization, because without them, without the importance, the employees, it's not meaningful for the employees. So, you know, we have it in our vision, have it in our core values that we want this clear expectation of what we want our culture to be. So we, you know, we got management involved in doing the sustainability policy that we created, so that we had something to share with our employees, and we can kind of educate and teach from there. And it also helps to put the sustainability coordinator on the management team, you know, being involved in some of the decision making, and you know, looking at new projects from the financial side, so we can work together as a team to see if it's a viable project for the company. I had mentioned earlier about the HR process. You've got to engage those employees even before they even, you know, apply for the job. We want to try to market to employees that will seek out Empire as a sustainable company, because I think the younger generation are looking for companies that have this sustainable mindset. Also within the company, we want to make sure that our employees feel like they have a voice, that they have maybe a platform for them to, you know, give their input and their feedback. And we can do that through employee surveys. The surveys have been helpful because it helps us on the team. You know, we ask a few questions on how our, you know, communication. So if they answer them, you know, if it's way off, it's a means for us to be able to communicate or look at areas that we need to communicate better, or share that message with them. And then also a platform for them to add feedback, or you know, maybe even want to get involved in the process more. So it's been a good tool for us to use. When we, one of the slides over this side there, if we had a project for the survey, we wanted to try to reach as many as our employees as we could. So, you know, we made some stickers for them, and, you know, try to make it a fun sort of event, so that people felt, you know, to try to get more engagement. We also gave them t-shirts so they could wear some, you know, with printing, you want to be able to wear something that, you know, not your nicest clothes sometimes. So we, with our name on it and our Printing with Purpose t-shirts, we, you know, that kind of captures and gets out to the rest of the people. So everybody who did a survey got a t-shirt for doing so. we want to, education and training, huge factors in, knowing the job and the reasons why we do, not just with sustainability, but with the process improvements. It's a huge key factor for that. And then how do we, other means of relaying the information. We have green boards in our facility, a couple of them up by our customer service area and then down in our plant, where we put our annual report, our recycle numbers. We also have information on our website and our social media sites. We have our EMS available. We also have a quarterly newsletter that we have a section just on sustainability. So we try to write an article each time for that. One other thing that we did was we joined a Sustainability Institute. We are, the last 2 years, we have not been a part of it, in part because of 2020, and then we just haven't gotten back to it. But this was a huge opportunity for us to learn from others within the community, other businesses, learn what they're doing for projects. So it was a good resource and a good means of learning from other people. Next slide. So the 3 projects that I just wanted to highlight that we are most proud of, number 1 would be our UV LED technology. We are the first company to do that. We pioneered it, we developed it with our ink companies and our to establish a process that works for screen printing. And this, for us, it's the most impactful, it's game changing, and we want to share this with the industry. The next project that I have on there is our recycle program. And I added this one because as far as the employee engagement, this was probably one where it was the easiest to implement a change. Most companies, when there's change happening, you'll get, not everybody buys into it. Not everybody wants to be engaged with that process, and it takes a lot, takes time to change that mindset. But for the recycle program, I think people were excited about it, thought it was a really good idea, and they worked to improve it. So when we first rolled it out, they had to travel to, throw away their items that could be recycled. So we got receptacles and put them in their area that, made it part of their process. So we improved the process for them. Also, we made stickers on the job folder so that they knew the material that they were printing on, any of the waste or the after their die cut, the waste could go in a recycle bin. So they knew right away if it was needing to be recycled or not. So it kind of gave them control over the process and empowered them to kind of help with that and divert the materials from the landfill and divert it to either recycle or burn for energy. And then the final project I just wanted to highlight there was we have a cleanup day, and usually in the spring or fall. And for me, it was the most fun. So people would sign up. We got about 15 people. If I got more, I would just schedule. I would make sure they were on like either the fall schedule or the spring schedule. But it was an hour, hopefully we picked a day that was nice and sunny outside, and they got to go out and clean up the area around the facility. And this really engaged a lot of people because they didn't realize how much, waste was actually out there. Whether, I don't think some of it probably wasn't intentional, where something flew out of your car or whatever, but it just gets trapped in the valley. It's something that it doesn't need to be work related. If you go home and you want to do something with your family. So I just wanted to highlight that one because it's one of those low hanging fruit ones that gets people engaged, gets them doing something that they wouldn't normally do on their daily job. So with that ends my presentation. I want to thank you for inviting me to speak today, and thank you.
Excellent. Well, I appreciate both Lisa and Jennifer participating today and providing us with some great material. At this time, what we'd like to do is to have a panel discussion. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask Lisa and Jennifer to turn on their videos if they can. Excellent. Excellent. And I'm just going to go through some, I think, practical questions about how to, the big thing with us is how do you champion sustainability? We'd like to really understand from your perspective, how you went about creating your programs, how you continue to have them grow, what are the key aspects, for Green Bay Packaging as well as Empire, to be able to understand exactly moving forward how individuals can take that information and really expand their own. So, I want to ask you a couple questions about, in terms of, how you got it off the ground. How did you start your sustainability program at Green Bay? Lisa first, and then Jennifer.
I think, like I said, the measurement first, it was, it's hard. You can't manage something if you don't measure it. I'm sure it's a cliche. You've heard that many times, but by looking at and collecting the data that's key to your business, helps you tell the direction or opportunities that you already have or could explore to be, whether that be waste or other commodities. And, one of the things with that data collection, we found operational efficiencies with water management, leaving the hose running in the drain, for the press pit or some of the other, or integrity on the instrumentation to help on that. Also, when we start looking at the data and it's like, wow, this is how much is coming in, but yet when it leaves the plant, doing that flow chart, looking for a home. So when we segregated and we did a lot of training and we did fact sheets with pictures and we got engagement from sites like best practices and shared that with other sites. When we started segregating material on site and understanding how it came in and how it went out, we significantly reduced our waste, looking at ways to collect it. When you mix all the metals together, you get kind of a lower valuation. When you separate stainless steel, copper, and brass, you can get a higher value. So it's communicating that benefit to that, and people understood that. And then there's the buy-on, like, oh, if I do this, same thing with like even plastic bottles from drinking or office paper. When you commoditize something, it has a lot more value leaving your plant than having this smushed bale of everything. So that's, partly where we started, is the devil in the details with the metrics, and then why we would like to do it. And then they could see some of the actual data on that helped with that also as well. So that's really seeded our program. And then seeing some of that low fruit and growing, that's where it moved up into that project level, the processes, the practices, and then into our capital investments.
Ours kind of developed a little bit differently, I'd say. In fact, in terms of wanting to be able to kind of market what really the UV LED technology. So when we started with that, we didn't realize I don't think we really thought of the environmental aspects of it. And so as we started developing it and doing the beta testing and realizing the cost savings and the energy savings that we're getting from the two different presses, identical footprint, the difference would be the mercury and how it's the the bulb life, and then compared to the LED, it was just, we looked at it from terms of, well, we can retain that information. At the time, the inks did cost more because there's a little bit different photo initiators that needed to be in the ink for the LED. So there's a cost to this. If you have more printers using that ink, the cost, the market value of that would level out a little bit. But we decided that because of the environmental and the cost savings that it was something that we wanted to share with the industry, that we could develop this process and then, have it be part of the industry that we're in, to make our industry a little bit cleaner, safer, not for our employees, the environment, and still have a profit level to it. So I think it was more of that marketing aspect of it. The other side of it is that my personal side of it was that, I'm very much into, environment and stuff like that. So, it was my tree hugging, lifestyle or whatever helped prompt that, if I could lead a team into helping and engaging others to follow suit, then they gave me that opportunity to do so. So, that's kind of how we started. And then, as we developed it, the metrics and of the other projects kind of came in as we learned it, and the return on your investments and all that kind of came into the projects after we were already established as a green team.
Excellent. Well, it sounds like, a bottom line savings and almost nearly an immediate payback was a real plus to get the management on board, correct?
For us, yeah, yes, obviously there's expense to buying and purchasing the lights. Some of the ROIs for the lights are, depending on the size of the press, there's more expense because it's based on linear inches of the light. So there is a lot of upfront cost to that, but what we're saving in other areas, helps to reinvest that savings into, either equipment or, if we have process improvements, we've been able to give raises and getting more cash flow so that we can, improve the equipment, improve the process.
Excellent. Well, moving forward in terms of management, sounds like they embraced it, but how do you keep your employees engaged and motivated in the sustainability conversation? And even furthermore, how do you address the cultural issues for your facility to get engagement at all the levels?
I think, when you look at the providing information at their level, what their job is, so they can understand, so you engage that culture. If they are a machine operator and what they can do to make a difference, and then, communicating that, it's a village. It takes a village. It isn't like one person going out there with the magic wand stick, or, it's to have that at all the levels, and what your opportunity to contribute and having that awareness is helpful. Because then when you understand the why, it's a lot easier to how you need to do it, and why that you're not doing it in vain, and just because someone said to do it. So that it's also taking like success stories, whether it be competitors or Focus on Energy. If you look on Focus on Energy or your utilities, there's rebates out there, and there are other awards for successes out there, and to see how those work for and using that information to kind of like on that tailwind, look at they've done this and we could do that, also gives that information to them, and then you get a win-win, because you are doing something sustainability, and then it also economically, when you get some of the rebates and the relamping and the reduced cost, you can use others' case studies to kind of build your information on that, which is helpful. Than the infinity of not knowing, those help too.
Excellent. Well, it sounds like, I'm sorry, go ahead, Jennifer.
No, go ahead. No, I was just gonna tie into that, is that, sometimes the engagement, you have your peaks and valleys and stuff. So, I think being a part of, for us, the Sustainability Institute, where we can do something that's not overly complicated, but has a lot of impact on the employees. We did a project where we had filtered water. I mean, it took a long time to just put a filtered water, in to refill your bottles. It took a long time to get that through management, but yet when we did it, I mean, there was so many people that said, oh, this was so nice, and just really made their, made people feel, valued in terms of of what we were doing for them. So we made a challenge out of it. We bought water bottles for everybody. So, you know, and we challenged them to get their 65 ounces of water every day. And so, I mean, we made things so that it would be kind of fun for the employees to be a part of it.
So during the presentation, I was listening to you. It sounds like you have KPIs and scorecards, and you're always trying to continuously improve that process, right? So how do you engage with employees and management to be able to solicit feedback so that you can make continuous improvement throughout the process?
And like I had said on, earlier that we have a newsletter. We also do that annual review or a frequency where they can see the metrics. So the stakeholders for that division or that product group can see that information. We also have different toolbox talks and other, fact sheets or information to share to, continually put it forefront in their knowledge on it as well. We also, like I said, with the SharePoint, we have PowerPoint videos and stuff like that too to help engage on their schedule if they want to reach out and look at some of the information on the company or on our products or our processes.
Excellent. Well, Jennifer, one of the things that you had mentioned, which was a project that was more than, I think, close to 30 years ago with some of the toy manufacturers, you tried to switch over to a different ink, I think a solvent-based ink. So talk with me about other improvements that you found to be challenging. It sounds like you had that continuous improvement to say, hey, look, we're going to continue to address this. Tell me about projects that you've tried, but you haven't necessarily been successful at, but it prompted more opportunities to continue on that path of sustainability.
Yeah, so back in the 70s, we were printing with solvent inks, and the toy manufacturers wanted a safer ink for for kids. They put it in their mouth and stuff. So we had looked at UV at that time, and that failed. But it took another 20 years to get back into technology changes and advancements in curing processes change. So but more recently, I have this feeling, I have this goal to be paperless or paper or less paper than what we currently use. And so we had a project where we're going to do that. So we had files that we'd run the job with, and then the file would come back and it would get filed back on a shelf. And so it took up a lot of space. And so we worked on a project to create a process where those files would become scanned in and digital. Mm-hmm. Well, we did that, and that's our current process, but inadvertently, we created more paper. People print paper now more than they did before, because it was kind of like we call a master biz, where it was more of a static document. And now we created a process where we could change it out, and then it would have to get printed. So we actually created a bigger problem by going in a direction that we thought was going to be a solution. So that still is something that is on my radar. We are looking at a new ERP system that hopefully we can get it down to, where it's more computer-based, where you can look up your information no matter where you are in the plant, and maybe just have a single sheet or a traveler, that goes with the job, so that it's not completely paperless, but it would be a huge improvement for what we have now. And I mean, I even am to the point of just setting up the printers to do duplexing, so that you can save 50% every time you're printing this job, you're saving 50%. But that's a work in progress. The other one was our Dane Recycle unit. We thought with the first install that we would be able to recycle that water, but what's happening is it's actually getting clogged and then shuts the system down. So the filter, we don't have the right system in there to for it to function. So we're in the process of looking at an investment, and actually we haven't decided on anything yet, but the return on that investment would be about 1.5 years to get it, so that we reduce the amount of water that's getting sent out a year. So we'd like to, and these projects, we set these goals and sometimes they don't turn out the way you want to, but up to this point, we haven't given up on the goal. It's just how we get there is different.
Well, as we come to a close today, I really appreciate both of your participation today, but I wanted to ask one last question. I heard you say you use a lot of resources in your sustainability pathway. I know a couple of different associations that you participate in, but I just wanted to understand a little bit more about, could you provide our participants today, on the attendees on the phone call or the meeting today, what kind of resources would you recommend that they utilize? And, how can you continue to, flourish? How can they continue to expand their path down to sustainability in the future?
I think, looking at case studies online, whether that be through a trade association, they have great information, just like this webinar and stuff like that, looking at trade associations. It's also looking at what's out there available for webinars, other, on your subject matter or your product line. Just kind of Googling, there's also newsletters out there from consultants or contractors or other things too that you can get information on that as well. There's also the Global Reporting Initiative with GRI, and that's free. You can go out there, and that speaks on materiality. It speaks on waste and water, and kind of gives you a good idea of the expectation on some of that as it fits to your business or a broader company. That's very good. The ISO standards, depending upon how granular you want to get with life cycle assessments. Also, looking at your competitors' websites and their declarations of what they're doing, that continuous improvement. Everybody's got a different perspective and different moving parts, and having that open, looking at those different concepts and how they fit your business is part of that sharing of knowledge. And also looking at customer websites, because as we partner and as they develop or make innovations in packaging or printing, as they strive on their products as well, can give you insight, like a direction of where maybe the market is going. So that there's also state programs such as the Green Tier, other Green Masters for Wisconsin, the Focus on Energy, or other energy programs in other states too, can give you ideas of just things you can advance your program with projects or metrics.
I agree. I second what Lisa was saying. I just want to add to it. Our president is part of a association called Epic 21. It's a business presidents, CEOs that meet weekly. And I think you learn a lot from other businesses, whether they're in your industry or not. And so the Sustainability Institute was another avenue for us to learn from other people that are trying to implement sustainable projects. And so you really can learn from other people that are kind of traveling down that same path, that even if they're not in the same industry, you can gain knowledge and insight from just working with other businesses that are within your community, or that are the trade associations that Lisa had mentioned as well. So
excellent. Well, I want to thank Lisa and Jennifer both for participating today and sharing this wonderful information. I also appreciate everyone that attended today. Of course, if you have any questions at this time, you can always ask them in the chat feature. So I'll give you a moment to go ahead and ask those questions. Well, we are following up with an email. If you do have questions you want answered, just simply respond to the email that we're sending out. It will include some information about SGP, the Green Tier program, as well as the recording that we do today. And again, I appreciate everybody attending today, and I hope you have a great day. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.